meditatively back and forth while he swallowed a mouthful of cracker and pâté preparatory to speaking. "Just fascinating," Gideon said to himself. "Just fascinating," Rupert said. He dusted his lips with a cocktail napkin. "Well, if everyone is ready, suppose we trot along upstairs to dinner?" On the steps, he and Gideon brought up the rear. "Rupert, what am I doing here?" "Shh! They asked for you specifically." "They probably want me to endorse Cheops yogurt. You know, I just might do it." "Gideon, don't be funny, please. It makes me nervous." "But only if he meets my price." Rupert's fingers dug imploringly into his upper arm. "Gideon, be good. It's not his fault if he's a little odd." Bruno Gustafson was certainly a little odd. Jolly, red-faced, and sociable, he was one of those businessmen who didn't have any business in particular. He had built, and lost, fortunes in plastics, in metal fabrication, and in food services. Reputedly a one-time pal of Spiro Agnew's, he had been ambassador to Suriname, or was it St. Kitts, for a few months during the Nixon administration. Now he developed commercial real estate in eastern Washington, dabbled in dairy farming, and pursued obscure studies in Egyptology, or rather on the loony fringes of Egyptology. Gideon had met him 3 or 4 times, at one university function or another, and each time Bruno had eagerly peppered him with one crackpot theory or another. Last time it had been the proposition that the pyramids had been built as huge protective baffles by Egyptian priest-scientists who had discovered how to utilize the energy of the Van Allen belts by transporting it to Earth along ionized laser beam paths. A slight accident in calculation, Bruno had told him, had created a momentary overabundance of power that had knocked the planet off its axis in 3001 BC, prematurely ending experimentation along this line. Despite all this, or possibly on account of it, Gideon had taken a liking to Bruno. He liked his energy and his amiableness, he liked his open-minded philanthropy, and he liked the enthusiasm with which he'd attacked Egyptology, even if he'd made straight for some of its nuttier byways. He liked Bea Gustafson, too, an intelligent, feisty, pint-sized woman about Bruno's age, 60 or 61. She had made a fortune of her own as an investment manager, and was obviously an equal partner, or maybe a little more than an equal partner, in the Gustafsons' current financial activities. They made a good team, one the visionary, the dreamer, the man with the big but fuzzy ideas, the other the clear-eyed, no-nonsense realist who kept their feet on the ground and their cash flow positive. Once upstairs, Rupert led the way to a table at the big window and arranged for Bruno and Bea to sit facing eastward, looking out over a spectacular view that took in Lake Washington, with the floating and occasionally sinking Evergreen Point Bridge in the foreground, and, farther off, the thrusting, jagged wall of the Cascades, glinting with an early layering of snow. The setting wasn't wasted on Bruno. "Some view," he said appreciatively. "Right out over Husky Stadium." But as soon as they were seated, he was back to his subject, addressing them all. "Did you know that in 1799 Napoleon asked his men to leave him alone inside the Great Pyramid for a few minutes, just like Alexander the Great did back in whenever it was? And when he came out, he was white as a ghost. When they asked him about it, all he did was shake his head and tell them he never wanted to talk about it again. No one's ever been able to explain it." "If it smelled the way it did when I was there," Gideon said, "I think I might be able to explain it." A smaller man might have taken offense, but Bruno merely laughed his happy laugh. "Okay, but there's some kind of energy there. Explain to me why, if you wrap a wine bottle in a damp newspaper and stand on the very top of the pyramid and hold it up above your head and the conditions are right, sparks come out of—" "Honey," Bea said, "give the poor man some rest. Let's go get our food and then make your pitch." It was Mediterranean.